Alrighty, let's get started. Today we're doing a proper warship battle with the SWSC-1 Olympus Mons from the Infinite Warfare game going up against the UEE Bengal from the game Star Citizen. Both vessels more or less represent the premier carriers of their respective factions, and being equipped with different exotic technologies will greatly affect the battle itself. So without further ado, starting off with the United Earth Empire's mainstay heavy carrier, the Bengal class, which has seen usage in numerous conflicts, making it a fearsome symbol of the Empire's power. As a carrier, its main focus is in providing battle group support through its fighter complement, and as a heavy capital ship, it's equipped for heavy slugging matches should the need arise. Coming in at 990 meters, the Bengal barely edges out the 927-meter Olympus Mons. Despite being a dedicated carrier, the Bengal also possesses a vast assortment of weapons for anti-fighter and for ship-to-ship engagements. Its single most important weapon is its 130mm shipbuster railgun, which takes up its entire keel. This is what the Bengal brings out when it's taking on a deadly threat. To function as secondary and defensive weapons, it's also equipped with 18 ship-to-ship ion cannons, 40 anti-air laser cannons, 16 rolling space frames with 21 missiles apiece, 14 laser point defense guns, and 4 mine dispensers. Together, this extensive loadout gives it powerful responses against most, if not all, threats. However, even with all these weapons, proper defenses are still critical. Along with its 36 inches of armor, it has a series of 20 localized shield generators that protect the entire ship. 14 of them are sustainable for a level of constant protection, and 6 of them are non-sustainable burst generators. These 6 provide considerably more shield strength for a short period of time, such as in tactical situations. This multi-layered defensive design allows it to survive even intense engagements. Along with the ship's own weapons and defenses, it carries a fairly speculative 70 to 80 fighters and bombers. Due to next to no real stats, I'll be improvising the complement specifics. For this scenario, we'll be giving the Bengal 40 F-7A Hornet fighters, 30 Sabre fighters, and 6 B-4G Retaliator bombers. These fighters were chosen due to their being some of the best in-game and lore-wise dogfighters, and the Retaliators due to their being the premier heavy bombers of the UEE military, being particularly useful against large targets. Moving on from Star Citizen onto Infinite Warfare, next up is the Olympus Mons class supercarrier, the flagship of the Settlement Defense Front. This vessel represents the single largest and most powerful vessel of its verse, being equipped as a mobile super heavy artillery platform, as well as a traditional fighter carrier. It's well equipped to outright destroy entire fleets on its own, at least on its home turf anyways. Its signature main weapon is the F-Spar cannon, an incredibly powerful beam weapon that one-shots most vessels, even able to cycle its weapon for repeated firings, though this tends to drain its energy reserves within minutes. As secondary weapons, it has 24 missile banks for ship-to-ship combat, and 50 rapid-fire guns for point defense. Though not as extensive as the Bengal, it's still plenty effective to give it a run for its money. Defensively, this is where the Olympus Mons really starts to be outclassed. Shield technology doesn't exist in the world of Infinite Warfare, leaving it to rely on its conventional durability. Even so, it's still equipped with 5 inches of reactive armor, point defenses, and a very robust modular design that is able to take extreme damage and remain functional. The Olympus Mons won't survive a prolonged engagement, so it'll be up to its offensive abilities, specifically its F-Spar, to secure its victory. Its carrying complement is also outclassed by the Bengal too, only bringing 30 R-7 Skelter fighters to counter the roughly 70 they'll be facing. The Skelters, while fairly capable, will be quickly destroyed should they try to engage the enemy fighters in force, thus they'll be relegated primarily to defensive roles versus their normal offensive nature. With the vessel descriptions done, we can now move on to the battle itself. Their starting positions will be 10,000 kilometers apart, facing one another in deep space between the orbits of Mars and Earth. No FTL will be allowed due to no tactical use of it being shown with either vessel, so sublight only. At the start of the battle, all available fighters from both sides will be scrambled. The Bengal's own 40 Hornets and 30 Sabres would split into 2 task forces, one to defend the carrier should the enemy fighters try to attack it directly, consisting of 10 of each fighter type. The other task force would use the remaining 30 Hornets and 20 Sabres to directly combat and put pressure on the enemy fighters. The Olympus Mons' 30 Skelters would form a tight defensive screen where they could work alongside the ship's own weapons to take out the Bengal's offensive task force. While defending against the fighters, the Olympus Mons' primary goal would be to close the distance and get into firing range for its F-Spar. The fighters would meet the Olympus Mons at the halfway point, starting to grind away at each other's fighter complement. Even with a numerical and nominal combat superiority, the Bengal's task force wouldn't be enough to destroy the escorting Skelters before the carriers themselves started to slug it out. Given the Olympus Mons' own weapons will be preoccupied, its main offensive firepower would rely almost solely on its main weapon. Meanwhile, the Bengal's multitude of weapons would be breaking down the Mons' defenses layer by layer, working on its escorts down to the ship itself. Once actually firing the F-Spar, the Olympus Mons would have a fighting chance, putting the Bengal's shields under incredible strain, likely even forcing it to have to use its emergency burst generators to keep them from failing altogether. Though giving the Bengal shields a good beating, the Olympus Mons herself would have taken quite heavy damage, though still very much putting up a fight. The sculptors would likely be all but destroyed with less than 10 left. While the F-Spar is hammering away at the Bengal through its intermittent shields, its own massive shipbuster railgun would swing around and take direct aim at the supercarrier. By now the weapon would have charged sufficiently to fire away, blasting a hole right through the center of the Olympus Mons, stopping the beam weapon from doing any more damage. Any remaining sculptor fighters would be mopped up quickly. And with that, the Bengal-class carrier comes out as the victor, with it winning perhaps 9 times out of 10, with the possibility for an Olympus Mons victory, based on that the F-Spar may be able to break through the Bengal shields after all. Though this isn't the only reason for the outcome, the Bengal has a far larger complement of fighters, as well as dedicated bombers, allowing for multiple attack vectors should one fail. Even though the F-Spar may be more powerful than the 130mm railgun of the Bengal, it's still sorely outgunned by its secondary weapons and bomber wing should they be called to action. The Bengal is just too tough, too powerful, and too well equipped to be beaten by the Olympus Mons. And with that, we pitted the Bengal against the Olympus Mons and found out that shields and fighter loadouts really can make or break a battle. If you like more versus matchups or ship breakdowns on a future installment, please comment below. Thanks for watching today's episode, hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe for more content, and remember, this was your first pass at the Olympus Mons versus the Bengal.